Hello, everyone. I'm so excited that you're here today because we're going to hear about an incredible book that, GiDiromalo, right? GiDiromalo.
GiDiromalo. Yep.
Girolamo?
Thank goodness for editing tools, right?
Yeah, I've got a couple
GiDiromalo.
editing. Okay. Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to interview John GiDiromalo. It's a tough name to say, but his book is so exciting. I'm going to have him introduce himself and tell me a little bit about your journey. And your title of your book is It's Not About the Devil, correct?
It is, yeah. This is my fourth book, and I wanted to talk about some serious subjects, and I've written previously about human trafficking and online predators, and unfortunately, there's a lot of evil in our society, and I wanted to profile three people who are fighting that modern evil and showcase how they're doing it in their own unique way.
Beautiful. So how did you get started writing all of the other books that you have?
Yeah, I had I would just say a kind of a corporate career for 35 plus years, but I always had this creative side and knew I wanted to do some writing. And it was 2020, and we had the whole defund the police movement, and I really wanted to give police officers a voice, especially small town police officers. My daughter's a police officer, and so I interviewed six people to kind of get the human side of policing, the person behind the badge. And I was talking to one of them doing the interview. And at the end, I'd ask these easy questions. What's your favorite song? What's your favorite movie? What would you do if you won the lottery? And I'm expecting someone to say, I'd go sit at the beach all day. And this guy said, if I won the lottery, I'd quit my job and hunt down human traffickers. And I was
Wow.
pretty surprised with
Great
that
answer.
And yeah, it was a wow. Yeah, it was a wow kind of answer. And I realized two things. One, I had a subject for my next book, but more importantly, I realized I didn't know anything about human trafficking. A couple of headlines, maybe a movie or two that I'd seen something, but I didn't know anything about it. And so it set me down this journey to learn more about it and to interview people who have had experience either as a survivor, someone who's a police officer who fights that, someone who was a brothel madam's kind of tale of redemption, and then someone who set up a nonprofit to help victims of human trafficking. So I got these four different perspectives, and it all kind of started because of just one answer this police officer gave me.
Was he in your second book?
He was in the first book. It's not about the badge. So he was
Okay. Got it.
He was the first chapter, actually.
Got it. I have a 5-month-old puppy that I'm hoping will behave herself while we're doing this, but you might see her floating around in the background here. Yes, we are talking about evil. Sometimes I bless her with holy water on the top of her forehead because I'm just like, is there something going on with you? What's going on? Not that you know, or you might know, but evil can get into animals. So not that she's been so bad, but I laugh. You know what? I am just with you in 2020. I was totally like clueless. My husband at the time, who passed away this past January, he said, you don't know anything about what's going on in the world. And I was like, no, you're right. I am all about my Catholic faith. I'm like in prayer. He's telling me, did you know so-and-so died? I'm like, no, I had no idea. So he was laughing because I had no idea what was going on in the world. And then 2020 came, and it was just like my eyes were open. I felt like, St. Paul with the scales falling off to see how wicked and corrupt so many things in this world are. Okay, honey, I need you to get out of here. Come here. Go over there. Go over there. Here.
Looks like he's acting up.
Yeah. Just like, oh, the minute I record, come on over, join me. Okay, so now she's got some deer antlers. But So when you said you had nothing, you knew nothing about the child trafficking, was that also the case with you? Like 2020, you just had some scales falling off of your eyes and opened yourself to the true evil that's been in front of us this whole time, but many of us hadn't seen?
Yeah, it unfortunately it's nothing new, and it's been around, and I really had no idea about it. Just busy with life and raising a family and all that kind of stuff, and so it really set me down this path to write this book, what I would call for the non-expert, people like me who something about it, and all these facts are revealed through storytelling. So you're not reading a report, you're getting four specific individuals' stories, and and through those stories, you learn a lot about what's really happening in our own backyard, under the radar. And for me, human trafficking is one of the most evil things that someone can do to another human being, and I wanted to shed some light on it, and it opens some opportunities for me to talk about it and write about it, and just run across different people from all walks of life, just because of writing this book.
That's amazing. So that was your second book, the
Yeah,
trafficking
so
one?
so the whole series is like it's not about, yeah, so it's not about the sex, uh, is the second book, and that's the four different perspectives of human trafficking. And I was writing that book, doing some speaking, and I kept getting questions about the online portion of human trafficking. And what I realized is most people don't know about online predators, and I'm talking about beyond trafficking, just um, predators who are out there who are either looking for content, looking to meet someone, extort them, etc. So I put together a 50-page booklet that is essentially a parent's guide of how to keep your kids safe on the internet. And that was a result of getting questions from various people, and I realized that this is an important topic that parents need to know, and so I go around and talk about that as well, and to school, churches, community groups, etc. Um, and every time I talk to them, the parents are just flabbergasted at what the predators are doing, how they're doing it, etc. And
How old,
and
sorry, if you don't mind me if you don't mind me interjecting, how old were your kids when you found all this stuff out? Were they pretty much older?
they were young adults, so they're now late 20s, early 30s.
Okay, cool. So your children were young
Yeah,
adults.
yeah. So my kids they were they were young adults. Yeah. So smartphones were just starting to come into vogue for mostly high school students at that time. Where now kids as young as 4 years old have a smartphone, and they're just not equipped at all to deal with what's going on out in the online world. I mean, you wouldn't let your 10-year-old daughter wander the mall alone, so why would you let them wander the internet alone?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Back when I was a kid, born in 1970, I wasn't quite 10, but I was 12. I was taking the bus, going to the mall. I think times have changed for sure. And you're absolutely right. I mean, parents don't even let their children stand at the bus stop without them being there. You're right. The evil's always been there, but it's even more in our face. So I'd like to thank you for educating others on how to look for this kind of predator nature. And it's not just against kids, it's against, our information, our lives pretty much. So, but the worst is against children. So you did say that you had someone who was affected, who was human trafficked in the book, you said?
Well, I interviewed somebody who was trafficked and is essentially now a survivor. And this
Mhm.
happened to a lady. a long time ago, back before the internet. In this particular person's interview, where they were trafficked by a family member, and a lot of people
Oh,
don't think that that happens, but it's actually a lot more common than people
yeah.
think. And so she was profiled mostly on her journey of how to be a survivor, how to, shed all of that experience and put herself together. And it took decades. So she's in her 50s now, and
Wow.
it's her journey on how she kept looking for answers, and then eventually, kind of had the wherewithal to do that. Another person in the chapter deals with more people coming right out of being a victim of trafficking, and so there's a couple of stories there about the online situation, about how this person was chatted up through a chat room in a game, very popular game, and then just was groomed to meet with them, and they offered this young lady drugs, got her hooked on drugs, and that's a typical scenario where their goal is to get that victim to trade sex for drugs, essentially.
Ah,
And once you start going down down that rat hole, it's really tough to turn it around.
right, right. Oh my goodness. Okay, did you say 3 books you wrote before this one?
That's the yes. So
It's the
the first
third.
one's about police officers. Second one is about human trafficking, and the third one is the booklet on for parents on how to keep your kids safe on the internet.
Wow. And yeah, I guess you can look at all of it as pure evil. Whether they're oppressed, they are obsessed, whether they are possessed. I mean, evil is all around us and it can influence even the best of people if we don't know what's going on. I mean, I myself just came into my faith at 42 years old. I would, like you, was in the corporate world, live in the world of the evil liar one, right? Like I thought, oh, party hard, and I was an adulterer and all this stuff. I was all about me, smoking pot, drinking, living the life that the world told me I should live, watching just the worst, things on TV. I was addicted to porn. I mean, it was a completely different life. And to now realize that
Yeah.
the evil that, the demons that were assigned to me from the moment I was conceived were loving what I was doing because I was just going along with what they wanted me to do. And so, yes, there is so much evil. And I'd like to talk about, how did you get into writing this next book? Probably because you saw the evil in the child trafficking. And where did you find these individuals that were able to share their story, sorry.
Sure. So one of the chapters is specifically about a police officer who battles online predators. Um, I contacted David Gomez, who has a pretty big Facebook following and is a professional trainer for the community, parents, other police officers, etc., about online predators. And I interviewed him for for the little booklet that I wrote. And when I came to write this new book, I wanted to feature his life and how did you get into it? How did you learn about this kind of stuff? And so the first chapter features him, and he went undercover as a 13-year-old girl online, and the predators just swooped in, and within 24 hours was contacted by complete strangers online, was asked to go out on a dinner date with somebody, and within just a few days was wanting to meet this 13-year-old profile, and and very explicit very quickly with the officer, posing as a 13-year-old. And Officer Gomez and team met this person at the motel and promptly arrested him. They found his laptop, cell phone. He had sent friend requests to over 100 middle school girls, got about 20 of those to send pictures, and had previously met with uh, a different girl at the same motel before, abusing this person. And part of the story, I'll reveal a little bit of the surprise plot line, but at the end, Officer Gomez interrupted this pedophile's dinner plans. Now, why do I mention that? Because this was on a Friday night, and they arrested him at the motel at 5 or 6 p.m. And it was actually his rehearsal dinner because he was getting married the very next day, and he was marrying a lady who had a child from a previous marriage. Guess how old the fiance's daughter was? 13 years old. And I just can't make this kind of stuff up. So I just
Mhm.
felt like I wanted to give the kind of compelling plot lines, and the story talks about how this person got lured in, what did this pedophile say, and
Oh,
and that's something that every parent should read about, and realize that these guys are very motivated to harm our children. And
yep.
if it's so easy to send a friend request, couple of seconds, couple of clicks, you send out 100, 5 reply, well, that's who you go zoom in on if you're after some kind of nefarious end result.
Yeah, I was watching a gentleman, Ryan Montgomery. Not sure if you've ever heard of him before. He's out there in the techie world trying to basically catch these human traffickers through their how they get into games and all this kind of stuff. And it was really interesting because he went online on the Sean Ryan show and just typed in hi, and there were like 5 or 6 people that immediately came and responded and like got dark and deep super early just by saying hi. So they're everywhere.
Yep.
Well, I guess yeah, everywhere. Maybe not everywhere, but so many
they
places, and so many kids have no
they,
idea.
they Well, and the parents have no idea. I mean, they think that maybe their kid is playing an age-appropriate game, like Roblox or ABC Mouse, for example, and and maybe that particular program is age appropriate. Roblox, super popular, kind of that 6 to 10-year-old age group. Well, it has a feature where you can launch a chat room and meet people from all over the world. That's how they advertise it. Well, who do you think is part of that group that's chatting up the kids? It's a good portion is going to be these predators, and that's where they hang out. They hang out at the kids game. They'll go into the chat rooms, and they'll start asking a lot of questions, and they want to see who's vulnerable, who is susceptible to influence, susceptible to just trying to get affirmation in some way. And you can read reports about how someone can meet someone online in less than 24 hours. They've sent an explicit picture, and that's not unusual at all. And once you've done that, they want more content. They'll start threatening to expose that child. All of a sudden, that child's got a lot of stress. They may involve in self-harm, not eating, etc. So you think your child today is happy-go-lucky. 24 hours later, they're moody and something is going on, and you think it's teenage angst, and maybe it is, but maybe it's something more.
Totally agree. Let's get into where did you find these people?
Talked to Officer Gomez previously, and then when I wanted to start this new book, I wanted to profile his life and how he got into battling these online predators. And so that's how I met him. And he lives in uh, the Boise, Idaho area. And so I traveled up there to interview him. I also wanted to talk about the abortion issue, always a hot topic. And I started asking around locally here in Colorado, where I live. And I met Dr. Catherine Wheeler, who lives in the state, and traveled to meet with her and find out about her story, and how did she, transform from an abortion doctor to a pro-life advocate. And it's a decades long journey for her. There was this moment in the story in her life where God really got her attention about the evil of abortion. But that wasn't the end of the story. That was really the beginning of the story. And the story talks about her decades long journey coming back to Christ, coming back to the church, and seeing the parallels of how God loves you, and the value of human life, um, and the people she meets along the way, people who had uh, abortions previously and needed healing and recovery, and people who had miscarriages, including herself. And she really opens up about that. And I think a lot of the readers will really resonate with Dr. Wheeler, as well as some of the other people that she met in this journey.
So can you just dive in a little bit? Like, God showed her the value of life. Was it like in a dream? Did it just kind of hit her like a ton of bricks? How did God show himself to her in this particular way?
Yeah, so it kind of started out with something that happened in the operating room while she was performing an abortion, and won't give away the entire plot line, but something dramatic happened that really kind of got her attention, and she kind of vowed not to do abortions anymore, and just kind of went along her merry way being a doctor. But years later, her personal life had some challenges with divorce and like that. And she just realized that something was missing from her life. And that's where she was just really, kind of touched by God of sometimes you have to hit, rock bottom, so to speak, and really reach out and ask for God's support and help. And he answered and brought her back. So Dr. Wheeler talks about this as a gentle nudging. It wasn't just 180-degree turnaround. It was just this progression of how people just kind of showed up in her life that revealed these things,
Yeah.
and so that was really part of it, is meeting these other people and developing her own relationship with Christ.
Interesting. Okay, so the next one.
Yeah. So then the third chapter is about spiritual warfare. There's an old saying that the devil's greatest trick is convincing us that he doesn't exist. And so I wanted to write about a topic that most people know about exorcisms and demonic influence from Hollywood. As we all know, Hollywood most of the time doesn't get it right. And I looked at that subject as, well, I don't really know that much. I know a little bit about from some Catholic teachings, but you don't really hear about it in church, and you see
Mm.
stuff on the movie screen. And what's the real story? What's really going on when we've got a diabolic affliction? And so I essentially did cold calling, and eventually got the person who co-wrote the training manual for exorcist priests to be interviewed. And this is the person who not only wrote it, but is in the room with the priest when this is happening. And so it's I would say a consolidation of several case files. So it's not any one specific person's, because we wanted to kind of keep confidentiality. So I took several cases and kind of put together a plot line of what really happens. And there was a lot of misperceptions and myths out there that I wanted to set the record straight. And through the plot line of how this person got attached to sin, got involved in the occult, and then really had to turn their life around and eventually go through the exorcism process in order to be liberated. And so I think it's a pretty compelling story. I don't feel like it's sensationalized, but in that sense, that makes it even more powerful that it's not trying to be like a Hollywood production.
Right. Right. So why did you name the book It's Not About the Devil?
Well, it's a little play on words between devil and evil, because it's not
Oh, that's
about
why the
what the
E is
devil can
capitalized.
do. It's what about, yes, well, yes. So it's a little, devil, evil, um, and on the cover, it's the one letter shows up as red, but it's really about us. It's about the average person. Now, it's way too easy to slip into bad behavior. Um, looking at vices versus virtues, and so it's really about us. And
Mm.
the devil is active. The devil has a game plan, a battle plan, and most people are just pretty clueless that they're out there, and we've turned into a, and so people they just dismiss it as kind of no big deal, and we know church attendance is down in this country as well as Europe and other places. And so the devil's just delighting in that. The devil's plan is pretty simple. It's reject God and embrace vices. I mean, that's really the devil's job. That's their plan. And, he's doing a good job, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yes, he sure is. So what in your wisdom, after having talked to many people, written many books on the evil people, I guess we'll say, that are out there doing evil deeds, possibly influenced, as we know, always influenced by evil because maybe they get power. I mean, I don't know about you, but there is definite evil in Hollywood and certain upper echelon elites, I guess I would say. I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist. I did do one show with a tinfoil hat on my head. But I mean, there are evil people out there. They are doing these evil things to these children. And I look at abortion as an absolute satanic sacrifice. I know there are a lot of people out there who are listening who might have had an abortion or who are thinking about having an abortion or who are a, father that had nothing to do with the abortion but feel horrible about it. And I myself, if I go back to who I was, I probably would have had an abortion, especially if I was younger, because I believed the lies that the world told me, that it's my body, my choice. I don't have enough money to raise this child. I was worried about what my parents would think of me. And I know that there's so much pain afterwards. As you mentioned, Dr. Wheeler, I believe her name was, who said she came across so many people who needed healing after that. I mean, it's not
Yes.
a clump of cells. It's a baby that truly was made in the image and likeness of God and that God created. I have a 30-minute video on this channel about abortion and about the lies of the chances of the baby killing the mom and all of this stuff that just never sees the light of day. So I don't know where I was
Yeah.
going with this, but I do believe that there's evil out there influencing. You know what I mean? And we need to fight.
Well, yeah. I mean, you mentioned one thing, and well, yeah. If you see interviews on YouTube with a lot of exorcist priests, they'll talk about how the devil goes after, especially people who have influence over others. So somebody who's, say, living alone as a hermit, yes, they can still get diabolic affliction, but the devil really relishes if you get somebody who's a powerful politician or Hollywood type of person. They really like that because it causes more destruction. It's really just that simple.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, I mean, I know this may not be it. How do you defend yourself against this evil that's attacking you? But it could be even something as basic as a temptation. I mean, maybe you're trying to get a hold of your gluttony. Maybe you are addicted to pornography. You hear priests like Father Ripperger say, please do not look at porn, because that memory can be triggered
Mm.
by little demons around you in mass. This happened to me. I'm looking at Jesus, I'm praying, and I'm, so grateful for him. And then all of a sudden, a scene of a pornography movie, film, whatever you want to call it. Back in the day, it was like a VHS tape. And it flashed in my mind. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't think about it. The last thing I was thinking about was that. So I immediately, out loud, because they can't hear
Right.
you, said, in the name of Jesus Christ, I bind the spirit of pornography, of impurity, and I command you to go to the foot of the Holy Cross for Jesus to pour his precious blood on you and to receive your sentence, never to come back again. I mean, I'm whispering all this in my pew. Went away. I honestly,
Right.
if I tried to recover it and to rethink about it, it was impossible. I couldn't do it, which was so great. So do you get into, you talk about the diabolical influence, and you talk to an exorcist priest who puts this kind of, this is how you defend yourself. Is that also in your book? I didn't get that
Yeah,
far.
there's definitely some reference materials, and yeah, there's some reference materials, protection prayers. I reference some of Father Ripperger's books, and yeah, he talks about not only pornography as a kind of a high risk behavior, but also the occult. And um, so that's also something that really can open some doors. But
Mm-hmm.
you asked the question, well, what do you do? Well, when I talk about the book, I usually say the best defense is a strong offense, and that might be simple, but it's not necessarily easy. And you can't defend yourself without God in there. So we don't destroy God when we reject him or we're mad at him for something. We destroy ourselves. So you can definitely pray, especially for protection, getting that relationship with God, attending church, avoiding vices, pursuing virtues. Famous exorcist Father Amorth said that a good confession is worth 1,000 exorcisms. So
Amen.
getting on the path to repentance is really important as well. And I've talked to other people who have been attacked at church, and people who I didn't ask. I've just had people randomly come up to me and tell me those things. And so what you experienced is unfortunately not an exception.
Right. Which is sad, but yet at the same time, there is the fight. That is the purpose of our life. We are here to draw closer to God, to, make that relationship with Jesus so powerful because his name protects us, to walk the straight and narrow with Jesus's strength. I mean, when you're talking about New Year's and resolutions, it's the 3rd of 2025 in January, how many people have fallen because they've had this overwhelming urge or something come over them? Let's say it's gluttony, maybe it's laziness, not working out, maybe it's not being prayerful and not waking up early, not starting your day with God, or even talking to God all day. There's so many things that we can do to better ourselves. And it's always starting with the soul, the mind, and the body, not the body, mind, soul. It starts with God. He gives you that conviction to change that thing in your life that maybe you've never changed in, 50, 60 years. But if you go to him for his strength and you continue to walk every day, those little temptations that come at you, those bodily urges that if you stop, you pause, you pray, you won't fall into it because you're paying attention. You're not just going to do what you've always done, is take that urge and run to this is my thing, run to the cabinet and eat a row of Oreos, with no milk. When you're sitting there, face is all filled with chocolate and you're like, what in the world just happened here? This is crazy. The next day, you could stop, pause, and pray, kick that temptation to the curb, and not even walk to the cabinet. Like, I had this happen 2 days in a row during Lent. And I knew what this crazy bodily urge for Oreos was. And the second day, I was like, done. I mean, St. Therese of Lisieux tells us all the time that when we fall, we have the lovely thing called experience with that fall. So we could learn how not to fall like that again. Or what are those whatever leads you to temptation, as we say when we pray our act of contrition after our confession. So be awake, be aware, because if we're not, he's going to come and trip us up so fast. So fast.
Yeah, I mean, the devil is really good at temptations. And most of the time, um, we make the mistake of taking up on those temptations. I mean, yeah, I definitely want the audience to realize that most of our own problems, are self-inflicted, our own free will of making bad decisions. But it's never too late to turn it around. And the devil really wants you to beat yourself up and to believe that you have committed the unforgivable sin and God doesn't want you anymore. That's what
Yeah.
the devil ultimately wants you to think. And of course, that's the big lie of being unforgivable. No, I mean, if you go in honest repentance, you're going to receive that forgiveness, and and so that's what everyone needs to realize is, God knows all of the bad things that we've all done, yet He still wants us to join Him in salvation. So He always will see the value in us, but we've got to grasp that outreached hand, and the devil wants us to not even try, but God's hands is there waiting for you to take it.
And a big shout out to all the people who are on the walk, on the journey, praying for their family, their friends, their kids to get on that same path. Just trust in God. I was 42 years old. I didn't even think about God, didn't think I needed God. I was a quote unquote Catholic, didn't know what that meant. Baptized, First Communion, confirmation. I didn't understand anything about the faith. And I lived my life according to the world. And I honestly thought I was happy. But yet I always had this sin of vanity, thinking about what people thought about me too much. I was always battling all of my addictions, pot, alcohol, food, pornography. And I thought it was okay. I thought, well, I'm doing this in the privacy of my own home. I'm fine. But God will soon. This is why they call it midlife crisis, I think, many times, where we take a look at our lives and we're like, what is the purpose of me even being here? And God created us for a purpose and a meaning. We
Right.
are disciples. We're supposed to go make disciples. The only way you can do that is to dive in, to learn what the church teaches. And when I say the church, I mean the Catholic Church. Know why we believe what we believe, dive into scripture, learn how to pray, learn how to fight the evil spirits that are keeping you from prayer, keeping you from being the best self that you can be, the one that God created you to be. I mean, I look at my life and I'm like 180 from who I was. And I'm so grateful for that. It's not me. I'm grateful for God taking those demons, especially alcohol and marijuana, which were like on me for my entire adult life. And then like a miraculous healing after my husband passed away in January. It was the first Sunday after Lent. I'm in prayer. I can feel my body shaking. It's getting all warm. I don't know what God's doing, but I know He's doing something. And then I would never want it ever, ever again, ever again. And for me, alcohol's always been in my life. I was healed from marijuana in 2013 when I came back to the church, fell back into it toward the later, about a year and a half before my husband died. And he was retired and we were dabbling in the stuff. So needless to say, the evil one can also give you a lot of excuses to do what you're doing. So for me, I hadn't touched the stuff in forever.
Sure.
And all of a sudden it's like, well, you don't have a problem with it. You could do it again. And then I found myself like wanting it all the time. So God is so much better than the evil one. So keep praying. Prayers matter. Prayers are powerful. And keep being that witness to all the people that you are praying for who you hope God pulls out of the pits of hell like He did me.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't do the journey on your own. And so if you're not asking for God's help, the demon will be happy to step in.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So what is it that you want everyone? I really want people to go get your book. I'm assuming it can be bought anywhere, right? Amazon. I hate Amazon, by the way. I don't like to give them any money.
Primarily Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Yeah. Okay.
It's definitely a love-hate relationship
It
for
is. It is.
authors. It's
I have
also
my
on
book
Barnes and
there.
Noble.
Yep. I have my book there and at Barnes and Noble. So, we do what we have to do with the other ways that we can get it out. Okay. So it's
Right.
not about the devil. What is it that you want every person to know so that they can truly go get your book? I got halfway through, maybe less than halfway through. And it's you're gifted
Okay.
with speaking like you're writing like you're speaking. So it's an easy read.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you. So, things I want the audience to know is that it's real stories. These are real people based upon interview, testimony, case files. I've created compelling plot and dramatization. So it's not a dry just interview and Q&A type of thing. It's taking everything they said and creating storylines from it. So there's action, dialogue, emotions, etc. Everything that you would expect from a fast-paced fiction novel. Now, what's different is that they're based upon these specific people, and I went back and forth in the editing process with everyone I've ever interviewed to make sure that I got their story, it's accurate, got it the way that they wanted to, have it portrayed. So I really feel like it's a true account of that person being profiled, and you're going to see how three different people in three different ways are fighting that evil. You can definitely find that inspirational, and I think the reader will really resonate with the people profile, and I think they will learn something about these topics and not even realize it.
Amazing. Okay. I highly recommend you go get the book. When you get the book and you read the book, please leave a review because that helps the book get out there to other people. I love the fact that you went back to these folks that you interviewed to make sure that they liked the editing, that the story was true to their life, which I think is incredible. And my dog is jumping through the window out there. So I'm going to wrap up, not because of her, but because I want leave a little bit more for the audience so that they can go find your book. And where else can they find information about you?
Yeah, I have a website. It's www.itisnotabout.com. You can find more about the books, myself, ways to contact me. I love to hear from readers, so I encourage everyone to check it out.
Amazing. Oh, John, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to get to know you. Maybe we continue on with this. If anyone wants you on for a live, there could be some questions. So I'm asking everyone to put some comments down. I've had this before
Sure.
where I've had some people come on and they wanted a live. So I reschedule you, we do a live, and they pummel you with questions. So if you're game for that, maybe that's something that will come around the bend. Otherwise, I want to thank you again for your time, and may God guide you and lead you, and may this be a rip-roaring success for his team and how to fight against the evil one and his team, if you will.
Yeah, be happy to come back. Really glad for this opportunity, so I appreciate that. And thanks so much. It was great discussion.
Amen. All right. Have a blessed day, and we'll talk soon. Take care.